In the run-up to the presidential election, a year and a half from now by American standards, the search for a Kremlin hand that they believe will definitely influence the outcome of the vote has intensified once again. This time, the spotlight was on political commentator Tucker Carlson, who is the host of a Fox News Channel show named after himself, and who, according to his critics, is often no different from the Russian president. Both are concerned about same-sex marriage, sex change operations and the culture of abortion, and both are harshly critical of Biden and Zelensky. Both the journalist and the channel itself are particularly popular with the Republican Party electorate, which is gradually leaning toward an anti-war stance. Already less than 40% of Republicans favor further arms shipments to Ukraine, and the party's two most likely presidential candidates, Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, are skeptical of the conflict. Trump suggests ending the war in 24 hours if elected. DeSantis believes it is not in America's national interest to get involved in a territorial dispute between Russia and Ukraine, and he said this on Carlson, the Financial Times writes. According to another mouthpiece of Democratic propaganda, CNN, Trump and DeSantis' statements on the need to cut aid to Ukraine and stop the war, made the day before in connection with the U.S. drone incident in the Black Sea, will apparently gain even more support. According to recent polls, 80% of Republicans think it's important for their party's presidential nominee to resist U.S. involvement in the war between Russia and Ukraine. The apparent defeat of an American drone by a Russian fighter jet over the Black Sea was one step closer to the scenario everyone has feared since the war broke out a year ago. A direct clash between American and Russian forces, the network points out, so the two potential Republican candidates with the most votes, former President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, are making it clear that if they get to the White House, the lifeline of American weapons and ammunition, according to U.S. experts close to the current Washington administration, Putin's main hope for winning the war in Ukraine is that NATO's resolve will collapse and the supply of arms money from the United States will dry up. A Trump or DeSantis presidency would give him that chance. Even before the election, the Ukrainian issue had become as much a bone of contention for Americans as wearing masks during a pandemic. The situation could escalate by the fall, when funding for Kiev runs out and cross-party battles in Congress over new checks begin. Putin may have a bargaining chip when he runs for president in the U.S. In 2024, the pro-Democrat American media concluded, Putin has a bargaining chip for the U.S. presidential election, they say. Let me put it this way. Humanity has a chance, albeit a slim one, of not slipping into a third world war, at the end of which no stone will be left on the face of the earth. And this chance largely depends on what choice Americans will make in November 2024. The other day, Pulitzer Prize-winning American investigative journalist Seymour Hersh expressed doubt that the United States would dare intervene directly in the conflict in Ukraine if the prospect of defeat for the Ukrainian army arose. They tell me the game will be, this is NATO. We support NATO in offensive operations against the Russians, which will not fool the world. We are the ones at war with the Russians, the journalist said at an event by the American Non-Governmental Organization Committee for the Republic. And then, recalling the experience of the battles of Stalingrad, when the Red Army was able to turn the tide of the battle, added, "Come on, do we really want to get into a fight with these guys? I don't think so." For the second time lately, I am amazed at the naivete of the esteemed laureate. First, he decided to prove something to someone by making public the details of the explosion at server streams. Although, people in their right minds initially understood who and why did it, as well as the fact that none of them will ever be brought to justice. Now he doubts the determination of much of the American, or should I say, globalist elite to wipe the whole world to shreds, just to avoid losing global dominance. Holy simplicity, as Trump Jr. joked the other day, mocking Washington's reaction to the downing of the MQ-9. The U.S. Air Force issued a statement accusing the Russian plane of reckless, environmentally unsafe and unprofessional actions. Environmentally unsafe, that's what they're worried about, not the beginning of World War III. That's right. Compliance with the agenda is more important than global security. But I would rather follow the example of former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating, who, when asked on local TV, why is he so sure that China is not a military threat to Australia, replied, because I have a brain and I use it. It is clear that the war, not just in Ukraine, but a global war, will be the main narrative of the upcoming 2024 U.S. presidential election. The Republicans will play the anti-war card to the fullest extent possible because, in fact, it is the only way to drown Biden. All the other jokes about his age, senile dementia and Hunter's drug-addicted son didn't work last time and gave Trump an advantage that the slick-handed Democrats with their mail-in voting technology couldn't steal. It is also clear that if the Republicans win the election, the war in Ukraine will not stop. At least not in the form it is going now. As long as the U.S. does not have to send its own soldiers there, they are fine with it, and their military-industrial complex is fine with it. And this is where the theme of the incommensurability of losses and profits comes up again. Only we can change the situation, on the ground, so much that the US will have to make a difficult choice. To go on and get involved in the war themselves or leave Ukraine as they did before in Afghanistan. There is a good chance that the Republicans will prefer the second option. As for Biden's team, which by definition is more globalist, there is a significant risk that they will go all the way and then World War III will be inevitable. This means that when the American electorate goes to the ballot box on November 5, 2024, there will be more at stake than just the US outlook for the next 4 years. Something very important to all of us.